Hello, my name is Terry Shreve. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce a unique lease purchase option tool to you as a real estate agent or broker. We believe this tool could be very useful in situations where you might have a buyer client who cannot currently qualify for conventional financing. What I'm going to try to do is use this brief PowerPoint program to kind of highlight what we're going to try to accomplish here and give you an idea, an understanding of how LPO1 capital works and how it might be applicable to some of your clients. First of all, we're going to identify the need in the marketplace. Then LPO1 is a potential solution to fill that need, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, and how you as a real estate, again, agent or broker can benefit directly from that situation. I think the need is pretty obvious to all of us as a direct consequence of the financial collapse of 2008. One of the things that has happened is that the feds have come down on the lending institution, and they have significantly tightened the requirements in order to get a loan today. It'll never be like it was prior to 2008, I don't believe, and I think probably most of you agree with that as well. And it's got down to the point where you can have people with 700 credit scores that get rejected for a variety of different reasons, and that's kind of what we're going to get into here. I mean, if you have a potentially good financially qualified home buyer, and what I mean by qualified is, let's say they had a business that or a job that they lost or whatever, but now they've turned it around, they've got their feet in the ground, they're making money, they're saving money for a down payment. Maybe they lost their home and now they want to get back into their home. And unfortunately, if they went down the course of maybe a short sale or foreclosure or bankruptcy or something like that, then they're going to be run right into that brick wall of these mandatory waiting periods that the Freddie Macs and Fannie Mae's and FHA's require. And it'll be a shock to a lot of them. Those of us in the real estate business understand these things, but and many times we have to walk away from situations when they're in that box. Also, it could be a low credit score. It could be they could be self-employed 1099er that without having 2 years of consistent growth history, they may be denied. It might be an IRS lien, or it might be a divorce situation. There's a variety of different reasons why people get pushed out of or cannot get approved, and that's what we're here to try to address. There's another big motivation, which is rising prices. If you're listening to this tape, you're probably in one of the areas that are being hit with double-digit inflation now on the single-family home pricing indexes. This just illustrates a couple of them and how the turnaround has been significant here in the last couple of years. On your left, you have the Phoenix home price values over the last 10 years. In the middle, you have Las Vegas, and in the far right, you have Riverside, California. Now, you notice they all have a similar curve where the peak happened somewhere in the 2006 and 7 range. You now had you then followed by the crash of 2008 and 9. You usually bottom out somewhere in the 2010 to 11 range, sometimes even into 12. Some of them are a little faster they're slower than others. But then you've had a significant increase in the last 1 to 2 years, and some of these, as I said, have just started to skyrocket again. And this puts fear in the eyes of the potential new home buyer or the one that wants to get back into the owning their own home, and they don't want to wait before the prices end up back up where they were in 2007. So they're panicking. So we feel that we have a solution in LPO1 Capital. That's what this is all about. We call it the bridge back to home ownership, although it doesn't have to be a previous homeowner. It could be a new buyer, as a matter of fact, that maybe has gone through some hardships. But let me just go through the 7 steps that kind of represent what we do, and I'll make this very brief, and then I think you'll have a very good understanding of how this thing works. First step is application and approval. Once an applicant cannot qualify, then they submit to us with an application similar to what any lender is going to give. We also want to get approval from them that we can share this information with a credit repair company that we work with, one here in Phoenix that's very, very good at what they do. And they will help us assess that based on the information provided, that we hopefully can get them to a place in the near term, meaning the next, let's say, year or 2 years, where they can get approved on a credit repair. Get approved on a conventional loan. We also, in the process, are going to determine the range of affordability for that client to make sure that they're not getting over their head again, and that based on their budget and their condition, it's usually going to be kind of the 1/3 rule, and again, determine what the upper limit of what kind of house they can afford to get into. Step 2, then, once they are approved by us, the client then goes back to you as the real estate agent and to locate his or her dream home or their desired home. And hopefully sooner than later you'll find or identify that house and bring it back to us, because we need to then approve the property to make sure, and we'll work with you on comps, etc., to make sure that the property is not out in the sticks. It's one that if we do for any reason would receive it back, that we can move this property quickly and that it's at an appropriate price that's appropriate to the market condition. Step 3 then is developing a strategic plan. I would do that directly with you on pricing strategy, on again using comps in the neighborhood and the market condition to see what kind of price that we feel this thing should be able to get, or what it would appraise at. And we're certainly not going to go in and offer something that's above market. That's for darn sure. We're going to protect our client, your client, and protect ourselves in this regard. Based on the total cost of that home that we project, then I will submit to them, and eventually I'll teach you how to submit this as well, but we'll put together a purchase option contract and a lease agreement contract. These are 2 separate documents, legal documents, for the client to review and approve. The purchase option contract, we'll go into that in just a second, but it's basically an option, means they're going to purchase this purchase option from us, from LPO1, and we'll give them a legal right to claim or to purchase that property at a given set price in the future, and they're going to pay money for it up front. The lease agreement is a pretty standard lease with a kind of a first and last month rent type of scenario. And again, we're going to get this in their hands so they can lay the cards on the table so they know exactly what they're going to be dealing with. At this point, we also like to bring in the client's mortgage broker. If he doesn't have one, we'll work with you to find one that will be appropriate. And they must review our plan that we have laid out for them in the house, etc., and also any input that the credit repair people might have in this regard, to match up, to make sure the home will conform to what the client is able to afford, and get them kind of pre-qualified with regard to the targets that the credit repair, whatever it might be, or maybe it's just a time period. And we want it on or before, of course, the end of that lease period. Step 4 then on the agreements. What the basic premise of the lease, the purchase option is that they will pay us a fee, a non-refundable purchase option fee, which is normally going to be 6% of the acquisition price. Now, your jaw may just drop like mine did the first time I ever heard this, and I say, my gosh, that's a lot of money. If it's a $250,000 acquisition, we're talking about $15,000 to obtain that. Yeah, that's exactly right. But I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes graphically how that can pay for itself if you're in certain types of markets where there's double-digit inflation. And that's precisely why it works well in an area probably where you're at. The client agrees to then pay a conversion price on the back, meaning we're going to lay out for them exactly what they're going to pay. I'll show you that here in just a minute as well. And then they also agree to the lease terms. The monthly basis is going to be the cost of funds. We originally were purchasing a lot of these houses ourselves, and then we we got so many of them going that we had to go out and get some investment money, and that's the cost of those funds becomes the basis of the lease term. We don't make money on this. We pass it right through. And we add to it the taxes, the insurance, the HOA, or servicing charge. We have a third-party servicer that handles all the money for us. And then we have to determine the length on which it's going to take to get to the point where they can make that conversion, and that's going to be typically typically in the 12 to 24 month range. We will go a little longer than that, but never more than 3 years. Step 5 then is the purchase closing. This is the most exciting part obviously for the client and for all of us. The client signs the purchase option agreement that we submitted to him earlier and the lease agreement. We then work with you to make the offer and negotiate the purchase of the price or purchase of the home. When the agreement is reached, then the client has to turn around and write a check for the option fee. We want his skin in the game at that point because we're putting ours in terms of a deposit or earnest money deposit for that purchase. We sign the agreement and we're off and going. We want to set up the inspection period that will be long enough that we can get not only a home inspection but get an appraisal completed. Every purchase we need to have a certified appraiser run the market appraisal on this so that we know and the projects will always be contingent upon that appraisal. Both this inspection and the appraisal fees will be paid directly by the client. Lease and move-in. The initial first month rent then is collected along with the second month, which is, we call it a second month, but it's really a refundable security deposit, just like any lease falls into the line this way. And that will be refunded upon the conversion. The LPO one, we then close on that house. We get the keys and we turn it over to the family and they can move into their new home. Then last step, the conversion or the closing, the second closing, if you will. Anytime during the lease period when the mortgage broker that they're working with now qualifies them for conventional financing, at that point they can basically exercise their purchase option by notifying us in writing that they want to terminate the end of that month or whatever, and then we will terminate the lease with no additional charges. There'll no fees or anything hidden there. And we will credit back at that point their full month's security deposit back to them. The conversion then and the closing costs do not include on our side any more additional real estate charge. You're not going to get paid twice for this property selling because a year later, etc. It's one of the most asked questions I get from real estate people. Do I get paid the second time? And of course the answer is no. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Kind of gives you a brief idea of how this thing works. It's pretty simple and straightforward. There's nothing magical about it, but it can be a solution for many people that are in that boat, so to speak. And then why are we talking with you? Our marketing strategy for this year, we've changed from what we were doing last year. And the reason I say that is because we know in specific areas that the LPO1 program works extremely well, or works best. And those are in markets where there's an annual double-digit price increase on single-family homes taking place. And we're going to show that here to you in a model. Let's just use a financial model of a $250,000 house that includes the closing costs, in an area that has a 15% annual price increase that's going on currently. And you're more than likely in an area that's somewhere close to this. So what I'm going to do is graphically show you that in that area, the 15%, now here's the $250,000 acquisition cost, which is a straight line, of course. And then I'm going to show you how we add on, let's just put it in perspective to the 15% annual growth in that market, in that area. So you can see that in 12 months, that $250,000 price, market price is going to go to $287,000. And after 2 years, it's going to go to $330,000. You know, sometimes when you graphically put it out and put the actual numbers to it, it kind of shocks us all at how fast 15% goes up. And it's pretty significant when you look at and that's of course what our clients are going to be looking at. So So then we're going to add in what remember I mentioned that there's going to be a back end price bump there that they're going to agree to. This is stated in the option agreement. It actually will spell out exactly what they're going to pay at any given point during the 2-year period. So in this case, it'll be $262. That's basically a 5% bump for that first year. The second year is just a little higher at 6.5%. It goes up to $279. But notice where the market is. So at $279, the market's up at $330. So you'll have over a $50,000 differential there. That's very important in selling this program, and this is why. If we take the difference, it's $51,000. Now understand, they have, even though they don't own the house, they own the option on the house. If they exercise that option, they will actually gain the equity that's been gained in there. So we call that an equity gain. So that's pretty significant. Now remember, that's on the actual purchase price, the $279, not the $250, the $279. It's $51,000 above that. So let's just, for argument's sake, let's just take out the 15% that we all dropped our jaw on, and if you subtract that off the 51, you still have a positive $36,000 net equity gain in this property. Meaning you're buying a property at significantly lower than the market price, just like you would a short sale or something like that. So when I get a client and show him graphically just what I've shown you here, it's very easy to get somebody who has any money sense at all to understand that, man, this makes a lot of sense. To put that $15,000 in and get into the house they want now, not later, and be able to capture that equity in that house through that purchase option. So that in essence, and then also you notice how I got those little tooth marks from the 6th month all the way up to the 24th. Those represent in any given month what the actual number will be that they're going to purchase that house for. So anytime during that period they can do it. It's pretty easy to see also that the sooner they do it, the cheaper the house is going to be. So it's their advantage to do it sooner than later. We've actually built that in specifically for that reason. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of how this thing works. Now let's talk about our targets. As I mentioned, strategically what we're trying to do. In the middle there in Arizona and Colorado and Nevada, this is where we were working last year. We ran and closed a lot of these properties in both Colorado and Arizona, and we started into Las Vegas towards the end of the year. We didn't close any deals, but all these areas were in the double-digit inflationary mode in 2013. But unfortunately, most of these markets have softened to the point where they're not in double digit anymore. They're more in the 6 to 8% this next year. That doesn't mean we can't sell them, and we already have sold some here in Phoenix and in Colorado. But the reality is they're not as easy to sell as that inflation rate goes down. So what we did is I went out and looked at different areas using Zillow research, and I realized this is somebody's opinion. That's all it is. Take it for what it's worth. But we found there are certain pockets in the country that still projected in 2014, this year, to be up in that double-digit area. And there's two main ones, and that is Central California. I'm going to say from northern, or I should say eastern San Diego County, all the way up through Temecula into Riverside, Bakersfield, Fresno, Visalia, Stockton, right up into the East Bay and Vallejo. These are all areas that they're projecting this year of 12 to 18%. And so that's pretty significant. And boy, you can sell these things, these type of packages all day long in these areas where you got that kind of inflationary growth. South Florida is almost as good, not quite as good, but they're pushing above 10% in both Central and South Florida. So that's the reason we're probably talking with you. Just to give you an idea, you can look these up yourself on Zillow Research. And I just wanted to show you how you to read, to make it easy for you to read this. This is Vallejo, California. And I wanted to show you where it says under home values there, these are single family home values, by the way, that's how it's filtered. and it shows an annual change of 30% this last year. Well, that's keep in mind that is a running average from February of 2013 to February of 2014. These reports run about 60 to 90 days after the fact. So I think the March one out is now out. But in any event, so that's the composite of those. That's 12 months. So that's why it's 30%. Notice below that the second red arrow down shows the projection for 2014, the next 12 months. Now we're in the 16.7, which kind of falls into our model. And that's, again, an area, if you can be in that area, we're in great shape. This shows the same numbers basically graphed out, and it shows you the 10-year stretch again in Vallejo, California, and how it bottomed out in 2012 and then has turned around dramatically and shown some 20 to 30% increase over the last couple of years. Softened a little bit here in 14, but it's projected out. If you've got that kind of market, this product will work extremely well in those situations. Just to finish out, I want to give you a couple case studies. Here's one that we did earlier this year here in 2014. It's a horse property, 1.25 acres, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,400 square feet. They were asking $395 for this property, but we had the appraisal done, and it's, as I mentioned, it's softened here, and so we ended up with a $362 sales acquisition price. The lady in this case had a serious, she had a 700 credit score plus, and so why couldn't she get, because she had a tax challenge. She had a tax problem from a couple years ago. She had settled the problem with the IRS, was paying regular payments to them, but it was going to take a couple years for her to complete that settlement. And as a result, she was just could not be approved until she gets that problem eliminated. So she paid us a $21,000, this $21,720 fee, the 6%. She has a set price. The soft bump on the back side is after 24 months is $392. I'm sorry, and after 36 is $408. She was more than pleased to be able to do that, knowing that it's going to increase some over that. So it kind of falls in line with what's probably going to happen. Second one here is one in Colorado that was actually done last year, and this was a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,500 square feet again. The acquisition price was $232. She paid a $15,000 option fee on this to us, and her price here in just a couple months is going to be $243. So I think that again represents just a small, maybe a 4 or 5% bump, and she's paying $1,133. Her situation, she was in a divorce situation. She had gone back to work. She hadn't been there in her new job long enough. She was making good money, but she had 4 kids. She wanted to get things stabilized last summer before school started, and that's exactly what we were able to help her do: get into the house she wanted to be in and have a stability for her family, and was well within her budget. So that gives you an idea of how these things can work. So we've identified the need, and we know it's real. We think LPO1 Capital is a potential solution for a lot of these people. Not for everybody. If it's a hand-to-mouth situation, probably not going to work. But if they've got the cash flow going, they've saved up a little money, then there's no question it can work. We want to make it a win for them to get them in the house they want to be in, a win for you. You get paid right up front when this thing closes, and a win for us that we make another sale. So as the direct benefits to you as the agent or broker is you have that. What are you going to do when that client can't get qualified? You have to just wait it out, then 6 or 12 or 24 months or whatever. But we step in and we become your pre-qualified buyer. And you get paid right up front when we close that in the first closing. And you have a unique tool via this product that maybe other people in your area do not have. So it gives you some competitive advantage. So here's my name, Terry Shreve. Here's my telephone number and my email address. Feel free to call me if you have further questions and want to get some in-depth description of more of what I just went over on the top side. And also, if you have specific situations that you want me to assess with you in conjunction with a client or directly with a client or with the three of us on a conference call, be more than happy to do that. So just let me know and I'll be more than happy to work with you. I just want to thank you for your time. I realize your time is valuable and I hope we can be of service. So thank you a lot. I appreciate it and have just a great, wondrous day.